Yeah, so I just passed out a recommendation which I think would work well for all parties involved. Would essentially leave the current zoning alone in the any residential area, and then address this under commercial, with the idea that, as long as we're looking at it anyway, that we would just zone that spot commercial and move ahead in that respect.
Well, because we have other youth activities in non-commercially zoned areas.
We don't, but we're not addressing those. Because we still have.
But you would in the future, wouldn't you? So if you're going to change your zoning, that doesn't make any sense then.
Well, yeah, it is, because what we're doing is we're talking about, a more sophisticated stadium here with lights and sound and all of that. We still have, Caddo Field, in a residential area. But the way it's set up, we could theoretically have a YMCA in a big residential district. And I think this basically puts the ball field into the commercial district or whatever.
Not special exceptions, we don't allow special exceptions in the commercial either.
Did you hear that?
What's that?
You can't allow special exceptions in a commercial area. All you do is allow a permitted use.
Okay.
So if you said you're going to do this, that means they're good to go.
Well, they still have to go through their site plan and all that stuff.
Well,
Site plan and that's it.
but you still can't restrict,
The site plan. You can only allow what is allowable in the site plan.
We could, couldn't that still be a permitted, we could add a permitted use in
That's what you're going to do.
in the commercial zone. And like he said, then it wouldn't affect the soccer fields, which during our public hearing, that's where a lot of the loud cry from our people, where it was from the people that live around the soccer fields and also the people that live around these fields, and therefore they wouldn't be affected by changing the ordinance. What we're looking at, you are inadvertently affecting those areas, and that's what people are screaming about.
So this is what I got, what I've heard and what I've heard. And I think first of all, hopefully, everybody can agree that youth baseball is not a bad thing. We should, the town of Hudson youth should have a place to play, because it's better doing that than doing God knows what. Get them out. And the concerns that I saw were, one, limiting it to a small, defined area, so it's not town-wide. Have some control over the lights, have some control over the sound system, have some control over hours of operation, and some site plan. Am I on the right track here?
Well, you should agree, right?
And, you know more about it than I do, but that's what I got out of Sears. And I think to do that, in my opinion, and I also read Mr. Fowler's email, and typically the two of us don't agree on much, but we're thinking along the same lines, I think, to get this done. And what I was thinking is to create a new zoning district. And you could limit that to having frontage on State Highway 12 for land that's more than 20 acres, that's north of Badlands Road and south of the intersection of Hermes Road and Highway 12. So if you do that, I looked at it, there's 3 properties there that could be beneath that criteria. Brewster property is 21 point some acres, according to the county GIS. The property on the corner, that one's over 20, but that's going to be commercial warehouse stuff. And the other one's on the east side, stub driveway that goes in there, and I don't think there's enough flat land in there to do a project. So essentially, and practically, you would limit it to those 3 lots in the town, and you would have a special exception as part of that, so they would come in front of the board and you would have your list. And the list would be, some sort of restrictions on lighting, whether it's dark sky, I don't know if that's a trademark term, a scientific term, or whatever. Something like that. They gotta come in and get hours of operation, you have some sort of control over the noise, and you have the site plan, sort of, what you have on some of these restrictions here. But, the current ordinance that you have in place, have a couple problems with that. One of them is the first item here with about substantial neighborhood objection. I think that violates state statute. And I've never seen that provision in any other special exception. So I don't know how that in there, but that's my opinion. We don't have to, if you don't want to go that way, we don't have to even touch that.
I actually read that email as well, and I thought that actually might be a good solution to our problem. Because then we have a little more control over where things like this would go. I mean, it wouldn't affect the soccer fields. And that is one of my biggest concerns, because there's a lot of houses around there, and that would affect a lot of people if they have the lights on till 10:30 at night, and where the boosters want to go, there really isn't. It wouldn't affect.
And here's my concern about rezoning the commercial. So the most discretion that this board has in terms of enacting the zoning ordinance or deciding whether to change the zoning ordinance, that's when you have the most discretion. So if you change it to commercial and the roosters decide to sell property, then another use could go in there that's allowed under commercial. So you lose that control. And with the special exception, you have some control. But the legislature changed the rules a little bit for special exceptions and conditional uses here a few years back, in Act 64. When they said, the exceptions have to be reasonable, they have to be measurable, along those things. It just can't be neighbors coming in and say, I don't like this.
So, Paul, just a question here. So, if we don't do commercial, for this location, one of the things is like this red line version. It doesn't really address things like curb and gutter, paving the parking lot, how many spaces you have, based on capacity, stuff like that. So, do we want to give that up, or do we still address it under what you're suggesting?
Do that for the site plan.
What's that?
When we
Part of
approve
the
this,
site plan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like any other business, when they come here, we have to approve the site plan. So if we tell them they need 20-foot berms with trees on them, that's what they have to do.
Well, and I don't have the whole town code memorized, but there's probably some parking rules in there.
Well, it's not really clear, what applies. I mean, there's a rule for parks, and the question is do we apply that? That would be a good one.
Yeah, and that's a legitimate condition,
Yeah.
and what you do is you figure out something that, again, is reasonable, measurable, and you develop it. And what the law says is that you put those things out there, you see those things, and they get their permit. And then it's, like I said, let's talk about life. So I object to life. Well, the next question you ask is, how do you object? What are you objecting about? Get beyond just the big picture thing and dig down a little bit deeper, because then you can look at ways to maybe lessen that impact through site planning, through conditions and that. And get past
stuff like that, the actual site plan, I think, can be addressed when you approve the drawings, drawing.
Yes, I mean, and minimizing impact to adjoining property is certainly legitimate through landscaping, through how you design the layout. You know, you put the parking in the front, you put the parking in the back. There's probably disagreements as to, is it better to have it up on the road when people are coming and going, that noise, or is it better in the back because then it's fairly quiet? And the stadium.
My two red balls for Robert Weller's email. It was well felt over. But one of the first times I was agreeing with him. But I think it's important to limit the soccer fields, these fields, from doing and keeping it at this facility only on that way.
Well, that was their biggest complaint.
Yeah, I know.
How it was affecting the people that
And I agree with them.
Like about 3/4 of the issues, complaints, if you just didn't have lighting and stuff on the soccer fields and academy fields. Because it's range and it's, you know.
And it's interesting, I've had people talk to me since then. Soccer and baseball and football are different. Soccer doesn't necessarily need lighting. They probably need a dome. But that's something that the city's gonna have to, this area probably needs a dome. But that's a different topic. Lighting isn't something they need as much of in soccer.
Right, but they would have the opportunity to bring that in if
Yeah, I
we
think we're
went
going
forward the
But
way.
they'd have to sell.
I think that's important to limit
Right,
that.
you can turn down the special exception because it doesn't fit that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's why you gotta leave
I
the
wanted to
special
say
exception
this,
there.
I handed this out to all of you, and if you look down here, it says 155, it should say 10533. This is your parameters for a special exception. So when you're all talking here, it does let you location and amount of parking facilities. That's part of your special exception. Not even part of your site plan, it's part of your special exception.
Conditions.
So those are conditions you have to look at when you're agreeing to any special exception in a res district. I mean, if what you're saying, Paul, is the direction we want to go, why don't you just add to this red line ordinance that all these facilities must be on a state highway
Federal highway.
or federal highway and be done?
And that's another option.
And then you're done.
Change it to just-
Instead of going to the next 4 months of public hearings and changing your ordinance, because you're going to get that all the way through county before you can go back to the special exception. But you can put that in here, that all these recreational facilities have to be on the state or federal highway.
But
And you're done.
what do you do with the soccer fields? You
They're
cut
not on
them
the state or
out.
federal
You've
highway.
cut them out of there.
You're cutting them out.
It's already
It's
in this district too.
Well, no, I think,
But
if you leave that.
this allows a
then-
special
then-
exception.
Yeah, then the soccer field won't go non-conforming.
That's my point.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Will be
they're in
non-conforming.
the county road. And that was, because I think, I talked to somebody about that, but if you start looking at how many county roads and how many state highways, then,
But I also,
which is why I started thinking, okay, let's limit it to Highway 12, and I looked at Highway 12, and it goes around in the town, you know, where it crosses the railroad bridge, sort of stops. And there's not many, you can just say along Highway 12, and there's probably 2-3 lots, maybe more. Because of the hills and everything where you even consider putting something like this.
but I come back to this, is how do you do this? And the board is aware, is there's two processes here. There's amending this ordinance, which has nothing to do with the special exception that they're asking for. And then they have an additional site plan. So there's a process that's going through here that I think we lost sight of in the public hearing. Everybody's all concerned with, why do we know what they're doing? We don't have to know what they're doing. We just have to decide what you're going to change this ordinance to. And then you allow the special exception to take place. And I will caution you all, to move this to commercial where you don't have a special exception ability is really problematic. And you might want to be careful of that. Now it's a permitted use.
I like the idea of just making a new,
Zoning district?
zoning district.
Or just do an overlay.
For youth-oriented sports, that way we don't have
Well,
adult
And
clubs
if this
coming
takes
in
time to do
drinking
the
and,
zoning ordinance, but, you know, so what if it does take time? You know,
Well, you're in
it's,
a window of
it's,
time on the
we
special
got,
exceptions.
we got 40 days. We're already in the clock's running.
Well, I don't,
it's not like they're gonna be building within this year. So we have time to do this right.
No, you don't.
But back you up, you have an ordinance that says you have 40 days.
40 days, we got 10 days left.
Right, but if we
Right,
change
what?
the zoning, then we don't have to deal with.
You've got a presentation and you've got 40 days you have to make a decision on.
Okay.
said they don't want it the way, I mean, right now,
As written.
you can't allow lights, and you can't allow someone. You can give them a permit. Do they even want it? I mean, I guess you'd have to ask
Turn
them.
it down.
Maybe they'll just say, we're gonna go with another path. These are our needs, stay with us, withdraw your application for right now. This is what we're thinking. Otherwise, okay, they come in and give them a special exception for something they don't want, and they're never gonna build. I don't know, maybe they'll say, fine, we don't care about lights anymore, we don't care about sound. We'll go ahead with this and just so we got some.
I think that's key to their plan.
Yeah, exactly.
The dark sky lighting, I don't think is a problem in that area, but we can't have it moving over into the soccer fields. The same thing with the sound system, the way the having the boosters explain everything, if everything he said is true, I don't see why it hurts that particular area. That's why I'm in favor of creating a new zoning district. That way we have control over where we think these places are appropriate. And I think we need to leave in youth oriented, that way we don't have adult leagues coming in selling alcohol and
They need a,
being out
they
there
need
till
a
2 o'clock in the
liquor
morning.
license.
Well,
You
yeah,
don't need a reason to turn down a liquor license
But
versus
they-
come, so.
chances are they're gonna bring in a cooler.
Maybe you want some old guys like me to bring some.
I'm pretty sure there's alcohol out here every
I'm
single
sure-
day.
I'm sure there is.
alcohol out here every single day, so.
I'm sure there is, but I don't want to
We've cleaned up the garbage cans all for years.
Yeah, I mean, I know people do it.
So, Paul, my understanding is that you were the one that took out youth oriented. Is that correct? On the draft, the other draft?
On this red line, is that the one you're talking about? That's so he knows what you're talking about?
Yes.
I don't remember
Yeah, I
exactly.
don't know.
It was some concern about,
Right here, the first sentence on the red line. Do we have that, Tim? Is that what he's looking
Yeah,
at?
he's got it.
I think that was just thrown out there as an option.
Okay.
I don't think it was.
That came from your plan commission.
Well, I know, but it, you know, I mean, if you read the wording and first, and then you think about, you know, what's being done, I mean, how many seniors really want to play baseball? And that's one piece of it. And we're talking about seniors, youth, and low-income families. But it was the phrase you referred to, right?
That's in the town plan, yes.
that's what our town.
It says collaborate, you know, with that, but it seems to me that, you know, by just removing it without any explanation, created a lot of panic, I think, in the community. You know, because they're thinking, well, there's all kinds of, I mean, Colorado, recreation, you know, smoking marijuana is recreational. So, I mean,
So think about this. What if I, as a family, are having a family reunion, we want to rent the field for the boosters, and I have adults playing with kids?
yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I
I want you to think about that.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's an issue.
Because Tom St. Joe, well, but they're adults, they're not youth, they're adults.
Well,
and
it's still a youth-oriented
Youth-oriented,
facility.
yes, still a youth-oriented facility.
It was enforcing.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
my
Well,
concern
that's a question to you guys.
was once you
We
have
don't
that
enforce
building,
it, that's,
you don't want it to be used for a concert fundraiser.
Right, that's why that's down here.
Or things like that.
Exactly.
can you change that's the youth oriented, baseball stadiums? Can't you change that first?
So what if Hudson Soccer buys the next lot?
Are they gonna build a baseball stadium?
Well, no, but I'm just saying, because then they're gonna say, well, you only allow baseball, and it
That's
says
the
you.
only thing you allow in your zoning.
Yeah, well, if we make
But
a
that's not
zoning
the
district,
town
then they would have to buy within that district.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but what if they buy the next lot?
Well, the next lot's not big.
Well, then one over then, because there are a few in there that are, but I'm just saying, what,
Then let's just say, so what? I mean, wouldn't that be a good spot for a soccer stadium out there?
Good, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
right, that's
As
what
long
I'm
as
saying,
it's-
so that's why, do you want to change it to baseball? I don't think so.
No, we just leave it like youth oriented.
Youth-oriented, you say sports, youth-oriented sports, facilities,
It says recreational.
recreational, yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah, sports recreation, I mean.
Well, it doesn't say sports.
What's that?
It doesn't say sports.
I know it doesn't say sports, that's what I'm saying, you could narrow it by putting sports in front of recreation, if you want to narrow it some.
Then you're not gonna end up with,
What is gonna be your definition of that? Because you
Well-
have to put a definition for
Right.
the ordinance.
Not to play devil's advocate, but what if like the Y wants to build a little camp there for over the summer? I'm not opposed to that. It would be youth oriented, recreational activities.
Well, campground is a commercial application, so if it's a campground, then it's.
That's not what she's saying. She's talking about a place where kids play.
Day camp,
Day camp, something like that, yeah.
where they just go for the day and
Yeah.
do.
Right now, your compound has that whole area is commercial. So, I mean, that could be new Ford dealership, new Dodge dealership.
Quick.
I mean, you gotta be careful. I mean,
you
let's
say
not
that, but
lose sight of
Quick Trip,
it.
there's no access
Yeah, there is.
directly
On the 12.
onto 12, except for coming through where the cabinet maker's property is.
Right,
So what I'm saying is there's no direct, right off of Highway 12. They'd have to come down through and through the cabinet maker's property. So there is
it
no
goes right into the,
Yeah, it goes right into the.
There's
property
no
edge.
direct drive-in off.
the
of
Brennan
12.
property is directly on the 12.
There's one access point.
There's one access point, exactly.
That was the intention, no matter what went in there,
Right. But
by the state.
Quick Trip isn't gonna wanna,
Well, not to mention
They've
all
got-
the
look
water
at-
and sewer issues and how
Okay.
much it costs to dig a well.
Drive into Robert's Quick Trip once, and look at how it's configured, it's off the front of
I've
it,
seen this.
it's goofy.
You know, going back, I think, to your discussion also, if we were, if we did this, rezone it into a special zone, does that preclude then, commercial development, you know, in that area? Or does it just allow us for the special exception in that area, as long as it meets the criteria?
So what I envision is if you were to create this new district, you put those parameters like we talked about. That's a tool that a landowner could utilize. In this case, the Roosters would have to come back to the board and say, I have this 20 acres, I'd like to rezone to this zoning district. And I think that that's close enough to commercial, so it doesn't violate your comp plan, so you don't have to mess with that. And they would have to comply with everything that's in that new zoning district that the board agrees to, and that's probably some sort of special exception for this type of use, but also maybe the current ag uses that are out there are some other good uses you want to do. But it would probably be less than full-blown commercial.
But it's still an ag residential zoning, isn't it?
No, this will be new zoning, you're talking an overlay though, right?
No,
No, he's not gonna do
it's
this.
a new
A
district.
whole new district.
But depending on how you do it, like I said, this district will only be for lots minimum of 20 acres in size. They must be located along Highway 12. They must be located north of the intersection of Highway 12 and Badlands Road and south of the intersection of Highway 12 and Hermes Avenue. So, and you see this.
That all sounds good, but what if one of those 20 house up on the corner there, you know, wants to be, it makes more sense to be kind of developed commercially. So then what
They can do
They
that.
can still
We
do
can
it.
still do it. So
Yeah,
it's almost like a
we're not rezoning the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're just making that part of the code, so someone who has a 20-acre lot
Okay.
can come in and say, here's a zoning district, I'd like to change mine from the current Ag 1 to this new one that you created. Just like they would to do anything else. It's a
Can't we just zone it that way? I mean, like, we have ag res, why can't we have our new zoning and make it like commercial and this new zoning?
Because then,
Well, your problem is that now you have to notify everyone about the fact that you're changing all of your zoning, and they may object to that. So it's just like your town plan shows the future of that area to be commercial. They're still ag res, they can still farm it, they can still, whatever they're doing with it, they have the right to continue that. And sometime in the future, if they want to sell that to the Ford dealership, they would come in and ask it to be rezoned commercial at that time. If you're gonna make them all rezone now into this district, you have a whole different set of circumstances.
But they can still keep their old, the
But then
old
you leave them
zoning.
as an ag residential.
Yeah.
And don't make them rezone.
I don't think anybody's talking about rezoning everything we want.
Well, that's what she just asked.
No, it isn't. The landowner would really come in and request it. At least that's my thought, instead of just forcing.
It's just this area has the potential to be zoned that activity
Yeah.
and that.
And you'll see, you know, certain things in other zoning codes. I mean, you look at Hudson, you get downtown, they got 2-3 different overlay districts or whatever. You know, different cities can get very creative in how they describe things. You need to look at the statutes and you start reading some of the tax things and some of the liquor license things. And you go through this whole list and you figure out that it can only apply to one alcohol in your account. Have to read the whole. So, you know, and maybe you don't want any of that, you want to go another way.
Well,
That's what we're talking
Well, I
about.
think that sounds like a pretty good proposal, but I'd like to just kind of address a couple of things in it. So, you know, we talked about in our comp plan, a bike path. Would that be, are we thinking on the east side of the road or the west side of the road? Well, you know, that's what it shows in the, are we, you know, so for anyone who would be developing it, are we thinking that, you know, they need to leave enough space for that?
That would end up being the county project, like the
yeah,
state.
the state would have had to put that in.
It's like going north Hudson.
Okay.
That was a
I'm
state
not
project.
talking about bike lane, I'm talking about a bike path.
Right.
So,
Just like north of North Hudson.
North Hudson, though, and that was state.
And that's
funded project.
grants, and that's the first phase. The second phase goes from where it is, going into the Eckerd Park, up to the river.
B,
yeah.
The,
and then B, you know.
And then we have, and so, and then under your proposal, you know, we have, you know, anything that would be developed under it would meet the, basically, you know, kind of standards of commercial from the standpoint of things like, you know, shielding trash, you know, fascia, stuff like that, you know, so that it looks, you know, there's some uniformity and so forth.
That's site plan approval.
Yeah. So we'll all be in the same plan.
condition of the.
And, you know, you just go this one.
So you should take this one and cross out or add back in what you want and change number 2 to what you want. Highway 12, Badlands to Hermie. 20-acre lots or larger. What else would you say?
I just made the zoning guidelines and movies.
Yeah, that's, we got that, but 20-acre lots or larger, right?
You know, that's like, oh,
And sorry, Highway 12.
Yeah, because everything else having to do with the look of this, whatever's going in there, is under your special exception and under your site plan. It's not under your zoning ordinance,
Right.
this part of it. That's why you have to be careful what you put in here,
It's
because
like,
this is what actually you have to look at.
the site plan is all gonna go through the planning commission and us, and we're, each of us are gonna throw things on there saying, you gotta have trash facilities.
Gotta have fences.
fence.
Right.
You gotta have berms, and you
Right.
gotta, listen, no.
But that's not part of what you're trying to change in this ordinance.
Okay,
Because
so,
your 105-33 that I put on here covers all of that. You know, I don't know what, that's where it is, that's your special exception. Why you, if you're going to grant an application, that's what your special exception has to look at.
so, Paul, are you saying then that, on item 2, we would change that to frontage on federal or state highways, and then we would have, we would go.
Frontage on Highway 12, he said, from Badlands to Hermes.
Yeah, so this, what I'm talking about is a whole new, not changing what you have here. Is creating a
New special exception, okay.
No,
so-
it's not even a special exception.
A new zone.
a new zoning ordinance, just like you have residential, you have commercial, you have business, you'll have
Okay, yeah, new districts, okay.
oriented uses.
Yeah, so then our syntax has to change, but, you know, our content is pretty much, established, so.
So we leave this alone?
Yeah, you would just touch that, there's no changes.
So you have to take off one.
Well,
One is illegal according to
Yeah,
him.
I take it. But you don't want to make the current things that you have non-conforming.
right,
Right.
that's what I said, you can't make it not
Yeah, so this, but it wouldn't be Q anymore, we're not,
No.
we're talking about what do you call the district?
Well, Q, the 10G3Q should be still amended and just remove one. That's the only thing that should be removed is one.
Okay.
One should be removed and everything else stays the same.
Yeah, that's a side issue.
Well, but we've already had the public hearing and all that stuff on it, so that should be, so that's,
We can do that.
that one should happen and be done.
Change that tomorrow night, right?
Right,
Yeah.
We can fix that. But then,
but now the new one.
so this would just be like commercial, industrial, residential, ag, res, youth-oriented highways, whatever you want.
Okay,
And it'll take, it takes it back and forth to draft it.
okay, so youth oriented recreational district, something like that?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good, okay.
I like it.
I'd like it to. So, Tim, did you say the 0.2-foot candles, is that equivalent to the dark sky lighting?
No, it's 0.1.
All right, I think in this new zoning district, we need to put that in there. Something about the dark sky lighting and the amplified sound system that the boosters talked about, that only projects like into that one direction. No alcohol.
What you need to do is just, instead of saying can't have a loud sound, you should put in a standard that's measured, just like you talked about the dark sky specifications.
Well, that's what I had, this, commercial one I referred to, you know, both, dark sky approved, sports, they have a program for that. And then there's also a, you know, there's our decibel, that doesn't apply necessarily to everything, but in commercial. And, we could use that as maybe a standard, I don't know. As a starting point.
And I think you should look at that, and it'll take some thoughts and input from whoever to see if that's a reasonable number, depending on what you.
The other thing is they wanted to go to like 10:30 at night.
No,
I mean, obviously it wouldn't be here wrong.
That was misinformation that was put out on social media. They wanted to have hours of 6:30 to 10:30. They weren't gonna play them. They probably wouldn't start till 7 and they would be done by 8:30 if you sat and listened to them.
If they had extra innings.
No, extra innings, or in the beginning, they prepped the field, so they turned them on maybe at 6:30. And if you went extra innings, you gotta prep the field and get it finished at the end of the night before they shut the lights off. That was why they're going till 10:30, but only till that was done. When they were done, they shut
So it's
off.
not like there's gonna be
That's
like
something-
people screaming.
That's something you would put in your conditions.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Those discussions didn't belong in
Yeah.
the public hearing.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Paul, wouldn't it make more sense, at least it does in my head, just to vote this whole revision down, just to vote it down. And then we start the process.
No, because we gotta get one out.
You have to take one out.
Yeah, so we.
One has to come out.
At some point, one's got to go.
At some point, yes, but to keep the community knowing that we're engaged and we're actually, we are working on something that's gonna work for the boosters and work for our community. I think there would be a whole lot less screaming if we would just vote this down as is.
I think
And then we start.
I think as long as it's on the table tomorrow.
No, we gotta get one
We may as
out.
well leave
We can do one out
everything.
later.
We may as well leave everything.
We have to have public hearings and all that again.
We're gonna have to have public, it's not a big deal to have a public
You're
hearing.
not changing anything in this ordinance tomorrow, except for taking out one.
Number one.
Right.
Why wouldn't you just leave it and vote on it and be done?
I
They're
don't
not
know
changing
what
anything.
with that, it's just taking out one and just renumbering.
And be done, because it doesn't change anything for anybody who's complaining about this project. This does not completely change a thing, except for one.
So tomorrow we would just vote on.
Changing.
The only change would be to strike number one.
Out of queue.
Yeah.
Not any residents.
Nothing else.
Everything else is as is.
Yeah.
Well, we may as well deal with it, and there's no point in putting it off.
Right.
Has to come on, and that's, no, it has nothing to do with the public hearing, it's.
I think though, for full disclosure, that it should be known that when you're gonna do this to fix what I consider an improper, illegal one in this ordinance, but that's not where this process is stopping. You know,
Right.
You're gonna move forward and try to, you heard the public. And the public, you'll listen, we're trying to alleviate those few concerns in a manner that allows hopefully a win-win and a nice project and a great amenity for the kids of town Hudson.
And we have to take a much more comprehensive approach, which, I'm glad that we're all coming that way.
How long is that gonna take to do that?
We're just schedule a couple of working sessions a week to get it done.
With the zoning administrator too?
With the engineer and the planner?
No, you guys first, and then,
Well, I would start right away and everybody put down their concerns and what needs to be addressed.
right.
And I can start working on, basic format with it. And you guys are the ones that are gonna be filling in with the details of what you wanna see.
So,
And then, it goes to planning commission, class 2 notice, of public hearing, and vote, it goes to the county, county's not gonna share. And then it gets passed, and then it sits there as a tool. And if the boosters wanna come in and say, hey, my property qualifies for that, I think, this is gonna work. And then they apply to rezone, and then you go through the whole thing again. Petition, public hearing.
What do we do with the 40 days?
Ask them to- I would
have
ask-
all the boosters and tell them what you're doing, and ask them if they want to withdraw their application. Because it's not gonna get them what they want.
Got any thoughts?
Just to clarify, you say we're striking number one, but we're leaving it in
Everything
there.
else.
We're just striking number one.
So-
The no significant opposition, just that line.
That's-
Everything else is gonna stay like it is in the ordinance book. It's the only change would be the number one. The first number one that's crossed out at the top,
Right, yeah, I get that.
not the one that becomes number one.
So, I mean, you don't have to do any of this, I'm just throwing it out there as what I think is an option to satisfy what I heard.
no, I think that sounds good. I have another question for you. So we have right now in our site plan, we have 30 areas that we've they're in the ordinance right now.
So you don't have to do it again in that district.
Well, my question is that, some of those questions aren't really specific, to this, recreational type of operation. So, does it make, are we limited by those 30, or can we ask, further, questions in terms of, like, typical, commercial operation has hours that pretty much change very, very, very little, okay, throughout the year. And then, one of them also is any information necessary to establish compliance with lighting, sound, or other requirements of this usage. So, they can propose, in there as far as, what they can do, what standards are going to address.
I think it's important to have a standard that you want them to meet.
Okay.
And if they meet those, they get approved.
Okay.
And that's the way the law is worded right now. You can put in reasonable, measurable standards that minimize the impact of this project to the surrounding neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah.
And if they meet those, they get a permit. And that's what the legislature didn't totally, but they certainly tried to make, once you hit the special exception conditional use approval level, not to take out all discretion, but certainly take out some discretion. So if they meet everything, they're good. You can't say, oh yeah, okay, they met everything, but we changed our mind, we don't like it. And we turned it down. We can't do that. You still have the ability to put in conditions. Minimize
So we would kind of work out this as a guide for the new zoning district.
Yeah, because you want to put some of those conditions obviously in. So you're going to want to use some of this because this has already been figured out. And then you just figure out what else you want in there. And it's all going to be a special exception in this district.
Well, you need at least some limited,
Yeah.
otherwise you can call it order. Or the expert.
Yeah, so.
But, you can leave it, you can say you can still farm it, it can be ag, whatever. And then you make this a special exception, you can make it permitted based on A through M conditions.
Okay, so what we're saying is that in this special youth-oriented recreational district,
Yep.
what we do is we say that, all approved agricultural, residential usages, can exist, within this zoning area.
So the one thing I would say, and this is a chance for you to look at it,
Okay,
look at what's approved in ag res, or in ag residential right now, it's conditional uses.
yes,
You can build a rodeo stadium.
right. Now, do we need to enumerate that, or do we?
I would enumerate them and put them, make the list of permitted uses.
It's a good idea, it's just like we goes
We don't like having to go back and forth. That's what we just did in the ordinance when we redid it, is try to get the referring back and forth. We want it spelled out for people, exactly what is permitted.
It's not supposed to be now.
But here's the fact, is that right now that land is zoned ag residential. So those permitted uses in that district are allowed there.
Yep.
Right,
And special exceptions are allowed with a special exception. That district that he's talking about does not take that away.
right.
Well, it
And I'm
can change.
That's what I'm
concerned,
saying.
it allows them to rezone into that district, but does it take it away? Because if you're gonna rezone them all into that district, then you've got a whole other process.
Well, we have to look at all of them too, because the one lot is commercial light industrial.
Right,
And then the other lots are industrial.
right. So I mean, I think we leave the zoning as it is right
Right.
now.
Right now, so these two are industrial, ag res, commercial light industrial, ag res, ag res.
Yeah.
I mean, so those people that have already rezoned, they can go in
correct.
But I'm saying the ones that are ag res, you're not rezoning them to this district, you're just saying that district exists for them to rezone into.
Yes.
Yeah, if they want to.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to be clear to them, is that it doesn't change their ag res use of that land. So they can go in there with what is in your ordinance right now and put fields in there if they want to without being licensed and so on. They can still do that.
Yeah, they can still do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like anybody who gets their land rezoned from, you know, if it's ag, they want to go to commercial. They come in and they ask them to rezone.
Well, I just want to make sure that we figure out how this is, because that's what I'm saying. We got two industrial lots already, so it's not just permitted uses ag res.
Right.
Because these are industrial, ag res, commercial light industrial, ag res again. So we got to look at what lots are the 20 plus acres,
There's three of them.
and they're all on the east side.
There's two in the east and one in the west. The one up on the corner, the 12 and
12 and 12.
yeah, 12 and
So
12.
that's industrial. That's already zoned industrial, has been forever.
There's the booster lot, and there's the lot on the west side that has that little stub cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are the only three that we can come
So, I don't know. The
So
one,
we
the
have-
north end is industrial, so we gotta figure out how to fix that.
So we have to reference this, as anybody in this district that's zoned ag residential could apply for this type of special zone. Is that correct?
Well, it's anybody that meets the criteria.
Even if they're in industrial.
Yeah.
But if they're
Yes.
industrial,
Yeah, because the industrial, he can change his mind and want it to be ball fields. But I'm just saying, so we have to be, because permitted, you're saying what the permitted uses are, so you'll have to figure out.
well, then you open it up.
So, you know, if you look at a lot of the zoning codes, you'll have different categories of residential or commercial. And they'll typically have the most restrictive one, and the less restrictive, and the line in the less restrictive will say everything in the former one plus ABCD. So in this one, you can say everything that's a permitted use in ag res versus a conditional use in ag res, because you may have one of those. And go from there.
It's good start.
Who's gonna do this?
What?
Each board member?
Yeah, they gotta put their lists together.
Okay.
And then we'll have to schedule working sessions every week and get it done.
So Vicki, what do you want from us exactly?
I want your lists of what you want and don't want,
In the conditions.
everything.
Okay.
If your conditions are different than what's in your ordinance, because remember, that's what's here. Your
You-
14533 is very clear what your conditions can be.
You can supplement that.
Right, but I'm just saying, that's already there.
Yeah, that's already, those are pretty big.
They don't have to start from scratch. This is where they're at right now for all their conditional, or all the special exceptions.
They still have to go through that whole process over here, because it's not.
Right.
And all of this would come to us anyway, when they came with their design. I mean, they would have to go through what, the planning commission?
You still
Because they
need,
would still need
you still need
curb
site
gutter,
plan,
sewage, they would still
curb and
need.
gutter is not necessarily required.
Would they need curb and gutter?
Not
Around
unless,
their parking lots and stuff?
You're gonna have to
So
handle
you
this
guys
where.
Do you have curb and gutter here?
In your recreational area here?
not unless you put it in that,
Well, I'm just thinking about, they're gonna need a big parking lot.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they have some curb
so
and gutter?
you can put that in, you could put that in your wish list.
Yeah, I really don't care, I think it just makes it more
So that's what I'm
expensive
saying,
for
you
'em.
could, when Vicky's
But-
asking for our wish list, you could put that in your wish list.
But the planning, they're gonna see the planning commission first with their plan, and then they'll come to us.
But if it's not
With
written there that they
recommendations.
have to do it, they're not gonna,
Right,
the
yeah.
planning commission
I'm
isn't
just-
gonna raise a flag.
Curb
and
and
say-
gutter is not required in the town unless it's
The only reason they.
erosion issue.
Or where they didn't want people running into the building.
Okay,
together and.
And the sound systems. I think, we probably need to hear back from the Roosters about their sound systems, so we can be more specific. Because I don't remember what they said, the type of,
They didn't
How
have, they didn't have the ambage as far as, you know, what the
They
noise.
said they would comply with our zone
With our noise,
With our noise ordinances.
ordinances.
that exists today.
okay. When do you want this by, Vicky?
Why don't you do that?
Half hour ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to schedule this for next week?
Yeah, we need to get these scheduled. The sooner you can get it to me, the better. And then if you still want to add more, whatever, but, so we can get this put together.
Yeah, but you want to do it right.
Yeah, so there's a big,
Right, but just start giving me the list so that I can get it together and get it to everybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then we'll just keep adding to it and trying to figure out.
And especially everyone's mind, if you do it sooner rather than.
Right, we're not gonna push this
You're in a
off.
much better
Because
place.
then we gotta start over and.
Yeah, I already pretty much know that one, so.
For what day next week?
So then someone should talk to the Roosters about their current application,
Okay.
see what they want to do.
Want to do Monday next week?
I don't have any of my events in yet for next week.
I don't know there.
I think I should be good on Monday, I can make it work.
The 10th,
The 10th, yeah.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Same time, next week, yeah, Monday, that's fine.
Seventeenth too.
I can't do back to back.
Why?
I've got, it takes me months to get my taxes done, and I know. I would have to do this.
One more after.
Well, does that mean that you can only do like 1 week, or 1 or 2 weeks? Okay. How about if we make that one on the 10th a little bit longer? Is that possible?
Why don't we just schedule them every Monday at 4 o'clock
Yeah.
next week? Mondays, and if we don't need them, we don't need
24th and 31st.
Okay.
them. Not the 17th.
Yeah, all of them, so we can get stuff put together.
You probably won't be able to do the 31st though.
Why?
We've got an election the next day. Okay.
10, 17, 24th.
And then
We can schedule, we can cancel it and schedule it for next week then.
do a kind of framework.
So get rid of the 31st and go to all here.
Target the first
Can we
one. Yeah,
just
that's-
do the 3rd and the 24th for now?
You guys,
Because
you guys fill in the details.
I need to, I have done my events. in
We have to
Fort
get
Worth
some
now.
call time to write up something as well,
Yeah.
help us out.
Well,
We can't,
it'll get done before next week.
okay.
That's not hard.
We- I'm trying to say we don't have to race through this like it's on fire. We need to get
Well,
back
it's
to Paul.
front of your mind, and you've just had a public hearing, so it's better to do it while it's all fresh than wait.
Okay, I think we need to slow it down a bit.
Okay?
We are slowing it down significantly, in my eyes.
All right, so what's the next one then? So get rid of the 31st and what's the next one?
But we gotta,
So we're doing the 3rd, 10th, and
we
17th.
gotta make
The
time.
10th, 17th, and 24th.
Oh, today's the 3rd, okay.
It already is, unfortunately.
If you want to do one on the 7th, you can, I just won't be there.
I need to look at my schedule before I go any further.
Well, we can put it in your schedule, and you can't hit anything in.
Yeah, but there are things that come up that I can't, miss, like driving to Congress to the airport, I can't not do it, you know what I mean?
Sometimes you gotta put stuff like that aside. I don't wanna meet every Monday either.
Well, no, it's just,
It's important.
it is important, you're right,
So we'll put down the
but I also have
14th
a
and the
full-time job
21st.
that I have to worry about.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
That I work nights.
They're all on us.
First couple,
One of
anyway.
those I have to look them up on, and I just can't remember which one of those one is. It's either the next one or the other following.
So if you think it's the following, possibly the 14th, and why don't we just do the 7th and the 21st? Or that, I'm sorry, I'm
All right.
I'm sorry.
10th, 17th, and 24th.
Yep, and then
That's
the
a good place
14th
to
and
start.
21st of April.
You're saying what days in April?
14th and the 21st.
We should have it done before.
I
If we're done before,
I
then
hope
we
so.
cancel.
Right, but then we just cancel them, but just get them on the schedule and whatever we need, so it gives us time to get more stuff.
I'm good for anyone.
14th and the 21st of April, and the 10th, 17th, and the
24th.
24th of March.
So that way it just gives us time to put stuff together. Because then we got to send it to the planning commission once it gets scheduled public hearings and so.
The other thing too, I think I was gonna mention, the ordinance, special exceptions, it talks about, I think, class one rules.
Yes, it is.
Need class two rules.
Yeah, we always do it twice. But yeah, so that needs to be amended
Need
too.
to fix that.
We just noticed that.
So what do we put down every Monday